Eukaryotic cells make up human cells, plant cells, fungus cells. Basically anything that's living that's not bacteria or archaea is made up of eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells make up bacteria and archaea. So now I'm going to talk about the structure and function of various things in eukaryotic cells. And some of this can get boring, but I will say that when you understand these things, you can really think of treatment for diseases and understand diseases. So starting off, all eukaryotic cells have a nucleus and organelles. The nucleus is a double membrane that basically its function in eukaryotic cells is to protect the DNA. So in eukaryotic cells, we have a plasma membrane and then we have a nucleus, and inside the nucleus is the DNA. So that's why the nucleus is important. It protects the DNA even further, and mutations in the DNA that's stored in the nucleus can lead to cancer. So for example, mutations in the p53 gene, which regulates cell division, are common in many cancers. Next, we have DNA. So in eukaryotic cells, there's DNA. All cells have DNA. It's a long molecule that's composed of nucleotides that's arranged in a double helix. And DNA is important because it carries the genetic instructions for the development and functioning of us. Mutations in DNA can cause various genetic inherited disorders like sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is where there's a mutation or change in DNA that leads to abnormal hemoglobin, and this can cause various things in the body. Next, we have mitochondria. Mitochondria is in eukaryotic cells and it's an organelle, and the reason why it's important is it creates energy. The energy molecule of cells is called ATP, and this happens in cell respiration. So mitochondria is important for energy. Mitochondrial dysfunction can lead to various diseases where someone can have like muscle weakness and fatigue because mitochondria are responsible for energy production. So defects in them affects high energy, and this can affect your whole body. Next, we have something called the endoplasmic reticulum, and it's called ER. There's rough ER and smooth ER. Rough ER has ribosomes on it, that's why it's called rough ER, and ribosomes make proteins. So rough ER makes proteins that are either secreted from the cell or embedded in the cell membrane. So misfolded proteins that accumulate in the ER can lead to various diseases, so that's why that's important. There's also smooth ER. Smooth ER does not have ribosomes, and its function is to make things that are not proteins, like lipids and other important things for the cell. So the medical relevance of this is in our liver, the smooth ER detoxifies harmful substances. So drug-induced liver injury, like too much Tylenol, can happen when the liver's detoxifying ability is overwhelmed by too much Tylenol. That's why you should follow the dosage. Next, there's Golgi apparatus. They call them like membrane stacks, and the function of the Golgi is to modify, sort, and package proteins and lipids to transport them. It's usually, kids learn it as the UPS of the cell, so it tells things where to go. Defective protein processing in the Golgi apparatus can result in various disorders that can lead to developmental issues, poor muscles, organ failure, so it's important. Next, we have lysosomes. I would say they're kind of like the trash cans of the cell. These are membrane-bound vesicles that have digestive enzymes in them, and their function is to break down waste materials like cell debris, old organelles, etc. So when there's malfunction in lysosomes, this can lead to lysosomal storage diseases like Tay-Sachs disease, and this is where you have harmful substances that build up in the brain, and this can cause severe developmental delays and early death. So it's very serious. We also have peroxisomes, which are small membrane-bound organelles that have enzymes that break down fatty acids and detoxify harmful substances. So they break down fatty acids and detoxify hydrogen peroxide by converting it into water and oxygen. So disorders in peroxisomes can lead to conditions that affect the brain, liver, and kidneys, and also can lead to developmental delays. We also have a cytoskeleton inside eukaryotic cells. So a cytoskeleton is basically a network of protein filaments like microtubules, actin filaments, and other filaments, and it provides structural support. It's the skeleton of the cell so that cells can move, and it also helps with movement inside cells. We call that intracellular transport. Abnormalities in the cytoskeleton can play a role in things like cancer spreading, where changes in cell structure allow cancer cells to move and invade other tissues. So that's why it's important, and a lot of cancer drugs try to target microtubules to stop cancer cell division. Next, we have the cell membrane or plasma membrane. It's a phospholipid bilayer with proteins in it, and it regulates what enters and exits the cell and also plays a role in cell signaling. Medical relevance is cystic fibrosis is caused by a defect in the CFTR protein, which normally functions as a chloride ion in our plasma membrane. So this malfunction leads to thick mucus in the lungs. And then there's also ribosomes. So eukaryotic cells have an 80S ribosome. Ribosomes are important because they make protein. And so the 80S ribosome has a 60S large subunit and a 40S small subunit. This is important because it's different than bacterial or prokaryotic ribosomes, which are 70S ribosomes. So antibiotics work to target the bacterial ribosome, not the human cell ribosome. We also have cilia on eukaryotic cells. Some eukaryotic cells, there are these hair-like extensions, and there's also flagella. With cilia, cilia is important because it lines things like our respiratory cells, so it can sweep pathogens out. Some of our eukaryotic cells also have flagella, like sperm cells, which help with motility and movement. So defects in these can affect the mucociliary escalator so that you get sick more often, or defects in flagella on sperm can affect fertility in males. We also have centrosomes and centrioles. Centrosomes have two centrioles that are made up of microtubules, which are proteins. They help organize microtubules during cell division so that chromosomes are correctly distributed to the eventual daughter cells. So errors in centrosome function can lead to abnormal number of chromosomes, and this is not good for the cell. So either having too much or too little chromosomes or DNA is not good. So that's the big picture of eukaryotic cells. So eukaryotic cells have a plasma membrane. It's a phospholipid bilayer. They have a nucleus. A nucleus houses the DNA. The DNA is inside. In some eukaryotic cells also, there is a cell wall. Human cells don't have a cell wall. It's different than the bacterial cell wall. For example, plant cells have a cell wall. It's made up of cellulose. Human cells do not have a cell wall. There's also organelles in eukaryotic cells. So mitochondria is for energy, cell respiration. There's the Golgi apparatus that tells things where to go. There's a endoplasmic reticulum where a lot of cell components are made. Lysosome is a trash. So just a gist of eukaryotic cells. And any malfunctions in these organelles can lead to various diseases.